Now here we have been asked to write a function to find the sum of odd and even nodes of a single linked list. So what is an odd node? An odd node is a node whose data part contains an odd value. And what is an even node? An even node is a node of a single linked list whose data part contains an even value. So what do you need to do here? You need to access every node and you need to check whether it's odd or even. So if it's odd, you store it in a separate sum variable. If it is even, you store it in another sum variable. And after you're done with storing, what you'll do is you'll simply print out the values. Here, I'll use a return type of void for the function because I want to print out both values in my function itself. Now, if you have seen the previous 3 videos, the last 3 videos, you would understand how to access the elements one after the other. So if you have not seen my previous videos, what I would suggest is you go through them first. You'll find the links in the description as well as in the information bar, which is now probably showing up in the top right corner of your screen. You can find the links to these, and what you can do is you can go through these videos and then come back to watch this one. Okay, then things will be a lot easier to understand. So the first thing that we were doing was, if we have been given this question in the examination, the first thing that we need to do is we need to define the structure. So let's define the structure. Let's call it struct node. So every node will have, in a single linked list of course, every node will have a data part and it will have a link part. The link part will contain the address of the next node. So you can pause the video and copy this down. Next, we'll move on to defining the actual function itself. So let's just define the function. Now again, we'll assume that the linked list is already available to us. So I'll use a return type of void because I want to print out the sum values. So void, and I'll write the name of the function as sum odd even. And this function will take a linked list as input. And the linked list as input is provided through the address of the first node, which is stored in a pointer usually denoted as head. That is passed to my variable h. Now I'll use 2 integer variables, one called sum odd, which will be initialized to 0, and I'll have another variable called sum even, which will also be initialized to 0. And I'll use a separate pointer to traverse the entire linked list because I don't want to move my head pointer. If I move my head pointer, a portion of the list will be lost. So I'll use a separate pointer called ptr, which will start from h itself. Now the first thing that I need to check is if my list is empty or not. So if my list happens to be empty, then there is no question of finding the sum of odd nodes and even nodes. So I need to inform the user that, okay, the list that you have passed to this function is empty. So I'll simply print out a message called list is empty. This will enable the user to understand that the list is currently empty. And as a result, there is no sum to display. Now, what if the list is not empty? What if the list is not empty? Then what do I need to do? I need to start traversing the list. So I need to start traversing the list from the beginning, and I need to traverse the entire list. So in order to traverse the entire linked list, the condition is this one, that while ptr is not equal to null, so till the time ptr doesn't get a value of null, I'll have to access the nodes one after the other. Now, after I access a node through ptr, what do I need to check? I need to check the data part. What do I need to check the data part for? I need to check the data part for a value of odd or even. So if the data part of the node to which ptr is pointing, if that is even, so how do I check that? Mod 2 is equal to 0. If that is even, if the data part is even of the node, then I'll simply add it with sum even. So I have a variable called sum even. Using this, I'll simply add up the current data part of the current node, right? I'll do this. Otherwise, if a number is not even, then it definitely is odd. And how do I add up? In the same manner. So I'll say sum odd. So I can use a shorthand operator, right? I can say sum odd plus equal to, it's the same thing. So sum odd plus equal to ptr arrow data. Now this will give me the sum of all odd valued nodes, right? Now after finding the sum, or after processing the data part of a node, what do I need to do? I need to move on to the next node. And how do we move on to the next node? Like we saw in the previous lectures, you simply say ptr equal to ptr arrow link. This will take you to the next node. And in this way, the entire list will be traversed. So after the list is traversed, what will I do is, I'll simply print out the values. So I'll say printf. So \n will take me to the new line. I'll say odd sum is equal to %d, and I'll give a full stop and I'll say even sum, and I'll say even sum is equal to %d, and in place of the first %d, I'll substitute the variable sum odd, and in place of the second %d, I'll substitute the variable sum even. Okay, so after I'm done printing the values, I'll simply close off my else part, and I'll simply close off my void part. Yeah, so that's how it is, right? Before I close off the else, I'll simply print out a statement that odd sum equal to %d, even sum equal to %d. In place of the first %d, I'm substituting the value of the variable called sum odd, and in place of the second %d, I'm substituting the variable sum even. I just hope this is visible to you. And don't worry, I'll write this entire code in the comment section below. Okay, so I just hope this helps. What you can do is, just as an exercise, you can try out the dry run yourself. Like you saw in the previous videos, the way I did the dry run, you can assume your linked list to contain a few number of nodes, and you can do the dry run. And if you're getting stuck at any place, please feel free to come back to me. So I hope this helps. Thank you.